Oh, it probably helps like turn the TVs on. What are you guys gonna do after this? What's your next class you're gonna take? Uh-huh. Yeah. Then free up more time for myself to do like more like my thing, you know? You guys get to do your thing. You know what I mean? Alright, cool. So let's draw some halal. Oh, I want to see my password. I want everybody to see my password. Okay. So we'll do clouds and trees and whatever else you guys like. Whatever else you guys want to play around with. So we get a pencil and then we'll get going. Oh, here we go. Dang, 12B? Okay, we'll try the 12B. So this one's the... Okay, this is an H, right? So that's an H pencil. That's really hard. We won't get any darks out of that one, but that would be good for sketching. We'll see what we can get with that. And that's a 12B, supposedly. And so we'll play around with that one, too. Okay, cool. Get these out of the way. Yeah, I know. I don't know where she is, but she was the other lady. She was saying the other student. She was saying that she wants to do trees. So I opened this up, just put in trees, and it's like that one's super cool, super cool. It's like, what do you do with this, you know? And but so what we'll do is we'll do little studies. We'll just like do one here, do one here, do one here. We'll just like play around with that. And this one's pretty cool too. This is pretty simple. So that one's pretty. Maybe we'll start with this one. I like these simplistic shapes. So I'm gonna move this kind of out of my way, so it's not right in my not totally right by my face. There we go. That's a lot better. I like that. Okay, cool. I can draw kind of more naturally this way. All right. So the first thing that I want to point out here is with if you don't know how to draw something, get reference. And the more you draw it, the more you can draw it out of your imagination, okay? If you want to draw from your imagination. If you don't, that's totally cool too. And our objective here, it's not to, we don't have to get this thing exactly perfect. Okay, but I love the shapes that are happening here. So let's frame this first. Let's just put a little, like this has a little frame. So let's put a little frame around this first. Let's make a little frame. A miniature piece of artwork. Okay. This is cool. It's just us hanging out drawing. I love it. Now, so what I see here is I see this square, you know, this squarish type thing. And then we have this S curve, you know, we got this well, it's actually, if you look at it like this is a letter S kind of like that. So let's put that in there. Let's put that big shape right here in. And I'm just sketching it out lightly. And if it's close, it's good enough, okay? We don't need this to be exactly like the photograph. It's just reference. We're just playing around. Okay, there's no like stress about this. Okay, now you can see this is just coming out. Basically, here's where it starts to split. It splits this way, it comes up, trees basically, you wanna, it's wide at the base, and it gets narrow at the top. Okay? Or wide at the base, and it gets narrow at the top. Okay, and then that will split, and that will split, and you know, you have these appendages that come off. We can't totally see them, but that's okay. You don't need it. You don't need to see them. We just need to know that like it goes thick to thin. Okay, it goes thick to thin, and you could have this branch come off like that. You could have a branch come off like that, and these branches are going to be thicker at the bottom, and they're going to be thinner as you get towards the top. Okay, so this is wider, this is medium, and this is thin here. Okay. So this is coming down and coming across like so. So we're going to come down. And this is the gesture, okay? Like I taught you guys about gesture with a human figure, okay? Everything has a gesture. Everything has a gesture. It kind of reminds me of a television. I don't know why, but right now it does. And so we're putting in that gesture, we're putting in that movement, and that right there is this part right here. And let's zoom in to see what we got here. Should be able to zoom in and have it stick. There we go. Okay, cool. I like that. So it's thicker here. So now let's widen it up. Now remember, this is wide down here, and then it gets thinner as we move up to the top. Okay. Okay. So there's that. Now, what I also want to put in, I want to, now that those are our major things. And we have this diagonal line right here. We got this cool diagonal line. I'm going to move this over a little bit. And let's move this over a little bit more. Hopefully that'll work. Hopefully that'll work. Okay. My head won't, let me know if my head's in the way. And maybe I should be, the next one I think I'll draw bigger. But let's just try this out, see how it goes. Now I want to point out, we have these sky holes, they're called. Okay, so here's a sky hole, little sky hole, sky hole. You got these little shapes inside of the tree shape. So I'm going to put in this sky hole here. And I see that as that, and then I see a little one right here, and there's a little one here. And there's that one right here. I'm going to make them kind of angular. Okay, so that we got these sky holes. Okay. And so we start with the big shapes first. Number one, big shapes. and then 2 medium shapes, and number 3 small shapes. All right. So now what we want to do is we're looking at this. Here's our big shape here, and we put it right here. So now what we want to do next is we want to go, um, okay, let's break this down into medium shapes. And so right now what I see is I see this shape right here. I see this shape. Let's break this down right here. This shape, I'm breaking it up into that shape. And then I see another shape right here. And then there's another shape right here. And they're not really squares, and they're kind of they're not squares, they're not ovals, they're not circles, they're a combination, okay? Like square plus circle equals, you know, this shape. Or it's, or square plus oval, or, or rectangle plus oval, or rectangle plus square equals, like, you know, this shape. So that's what I'm doing right now. Now look at this one right here. I see this shape right here. This is kind of a triangular shape here, and this is kind of a circular shape. But that could be like one shape. So we're going to, and then we got another shape right here. Let's break that up. And then we got, well, I could say, okay, this is all one shape here. So and then we got this shape right here. It's like a crescent. Okay, and then we got this. Well, I have this shape right here, but so now I've kind of broken this up into these different shapes. Now, what I want to do next is I'm going to go. Okay, this branch is kind of, I can't totally see the branches and where they separate, but I can kind of go. Okay, it's coming out this way. There's a branch coming up right here, and that's going to come back into the trunk. Some branches are coming out this way from the trunk out into these bushels, these smaller areas of the tree. Okay, and so at this point, what I'm doing is this right here. At this point, this is line art. So this is line art. I'm just using line. Okay, I'm not I'm not I'm using line to create shapes. Okay, and these shapes are kind of overlapping. And that sense of overlapping gives it a sense of form. Okay? So now what we're going to do next is okay, I'm going to stop right there for a second. I almost proceeded too quickly. See the trunk right here, this twisting of the trunk? This is pretty cool because see this line right here? Let me zoom into this. Right here we have this edge of dark, okay? And then right here we have this edge of dark right here. And we have this area of dark right here. Okay, like watch. It goes boom, goes this way, wraps around, goes this way, comes back up, and comes back down. This is very, very similar to last week's drawing when we were drawing the dog. Okay, so like this comes around like this comes around like this. All I'm doing, it's the same thing. All I'm doing is observing shapes. Okay, I'm just looking at shapes. That's all I'm doing, and shapes of value. Observing shapes, or observing or identifying. Okay, either one. Shapes of value. Okay? And then so this one comes like this, and it goes to the right, back up to the left, curves around, and then it comes back, swings back up, swings back down. Okay, so now this part is dark. This part is dark. And then we have shadow here. With a little bit of shadow right here. Okay, so we have these shadow shapes. Now, so we did that to the trunk. I'm like, is this a digital? No, looks like it's just a really grainy photograph. Okay, it's hard to it's kind of hard to tell now. Look at these are so cool. Okay, but now let's look up in these bushes here. Let's look at these the dark shapes. So on this left side of the tree, so you can tell that the light's coming from the right side. And on the left side of this tree here, right? This is mostly in dark here. If we divide this up right here, okay? We have this little tiny bit of light. We have this little bit of light. We have this bit of light right there. So let's isolate, look for the dark areas. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna squint my eyes. And when you, I'm gonna put two, I'm gonna put squint eyes. What that does is it activates it activates the rods in your eyes. Okay, so in your eye, you have these things called rods and cones. So the rods are literally, they're kind of like cylinders. Okay? You got all these rods in your eyes. And the rods, these things, they help you to see black and white. Okay? Or light or dark and light. And all the grays in between. Okay, and here's your eyeball, and here's your optic nerve, okay? And then you have these things called cones in your eyes. Okay, so we got these cones in your eyes too, floating around, these tiny microscopic cones. So these things are called, these are rods, and these are cones. So the cones help you to see color. So when you squint your eyes, you're activating, you're getting rid of the light coming in, and it simplifies things, and it helps get rid of detail, and it also activates the rods in your eyes. So that helps to identify the values, okay? And so here I see we have this dark shape here. So I'm gonna go start here. And like I said, we're gonna get close. You don't need to get here's a light. This is a light shape against a dark shape over here. So we got this. I got this light shape, so that's alpha light, right? And little alpha light. And then, and this is a dark shape too. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna start darkening in the dark shapes. I'm gonna go. Okay, here's a little crescent shape of dark. And then all this area is dark right here. Like all in here is dark. That's a sky hole. I'm going, that's dark. That's dark. That area is dark. This area is dark. Coming down here, that's light. This area is dark. So what I'm doing is I'm not even thinking about texture, okay? I'm looking past the texture. This is basically a little study. And if you get the values right in a drawing or a painting, then it's going to be believable, even if you don't get all, quote, the texture. So, if we get in here really close to this photograph, you can see all this tons of texture. And by all means, like if you want to draw all that texture in and do all those tiny marks, that's fine. But you want to get the overall values right, the shapes right, or what I mean right is, what's right to you. What looks good to you. What are you comfortable with? Oh shoot, lights went out. But that's cool. Okay. So then we have this dark shape right here. We have a little dark shape right here. A little dark shape right here. And I'm going to come back over to the left side. I'm going to revisit that area. Now, what also has value, of course, is the sky. So this background has value also. And you can see that the background, this blue, looks darker than this blue over here on the screen anyway. Um, in real life, or in the photograph, it might be that this is darker than this, but it also might be simultaneous contrast where this and this are the same value, but because there's a lot of dark values over here, all these dark values are making this blue seem lighter visually, and these lighter values are making this blue seem darker than it really is. But we'll play with that. We'll just go, um, if you squint your eyes, that is lighter than this. So let's put a background tone in here. That blue is going to be a lighter value. So let's put in a lighter value. And let's call this blue. And the blue has a certain shade. It gets lighter towards the horizon. So we're gonna get lighter as we move downward. And then we have that landscape line here. And we have this dark shape here. I think I'm gonna switch to this 12B. I'm gonna switch to this 12B pencil now. Ooh, that's nice. And that, because this is an H pencil, and you can only get so dark with that. And so I can only get so dark with this H. And now I'm gonna go to this 12B. So you can see already that I can get these really rich dark values with this, and what I can do here is we can just scribble to achieve a texture. And the cool thing about a pencil is, if I'm scribbling like this, and I can apply here. Let me zoom in at this point right here. If I'm scribbling like this, lightly, right? Super lightly, and then I can push down harder, and I can keep scribbling. That right there is giving texture. Like, that's giving the impression of foliage or grass, right there. Now, I could go like this, and that's going to give that's a different type of texture. Because, here I'm going like up and down like this, right? Or in a circle, and it seems like a spiny texture because I'm doing this type of thing. I'm just making these little triangles, okay? here, or you can manipulate that and go, all right, let's do this, and I'm making these tiny little leaves, right? So you can control the type of texture that that you apply. All right. So I'm going to come back up here, and I'm just gonna scribble with this pencil here. I'm just gonna sit here and just kind of, and now what I'm doing is I'm pushing my values, um, meaning literally pushing your values means you're making darker marks. You're making things darker. That's what it means to push your values. And I used to not know what that meant, but now I do. But that's what it means. Make your your darks even darker. And on our reference here, you know, now I can go, oh, this is a bump and 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 a bump. But when I say that, that's a bump and a bump and a bump. That's all the same when I'm saying it. But this bump is different than this one. That's not a bump. That scoops in. I like saying scoop and bump. So we go, here's a little scoop, here's a scoop and a little scoop, or I should say a bump, a smaller bump, a little scoop, a bigger bump, a smaller bump that's kind of triangular, and another bump that's even bigger. But all this is different. It's all irregular because nature made it. Okay? If we zoom in here, you can see all these different abstract shapes. That's all they are just, tons and tons and tons and hundreds and thousands of shapes that you can play with and have an infinite variety is happening in here. So these are all little sky holes. All these little light areas are sky holes, that the sky showing through the foliage. But none of them is the same. And if you want to get the impression of something being made by nature, then you got to make sure that there is variety in your art, in your mark making, I should say. It's kind of an enjoyable. It's like you're but like if you made everything the same, would that be bad? No, it would make it look a little bit mechanical, um, repetitive, but it could look pretty cool. Like, what would that look like? I mean, what would that look like? What am I talking about? If it's mechanical, I guess what that would look like, it'd be like if this tree. If I made all these shapes of the tree the same size circle, but even here I'm giving it a little bit of variety. Okay, I'm just gonna I'll go a little bit more time on this, and then you said you wanted to learn about clouds, so we'll talk about clouds, and then we'll jump back to the tree, and then maybe the cloud, and then I'm looking for this eraser. I like this thing because it's a hard eraser, and I'm going like, okay, well I want to erase out a little bit maybe. Last week I was pretty stoked on that dog drawing. I didn't finish it, but hopefully it helped out. Now, what's interesting too is right here, what I'm noticing, like right here, if you squint your eyes and you look at this edge of the tree, you can distinctly see the edge of the tree and the sky. Now, right here, it's kind of hard to see right here. The values of the leaves and the value of the blue sky, they are the same. Even though they're different colors, it's the same value. So it's hard to distinguish what's in front and what's in back. That's called a lost edge, and that happens. That happens in things that you observe, and it's a pretty cool phenomenon. And I like to apply those. I like to allow those to exist in the art. Before I'd be like, I want contrast everywhere, and all the values have to be different on all the edges. But I don't do that anymore. I like to allow lost edges to exist. I'm just gonna darken the sky a little bit. So I'm making some decisions to make this make this pop a little bit more. To making it pop means, I'm using the C word, contrast. Okay, and contrast is an important um, principle of design. Very, very important principle of design. Don't forget it. Contrast in texture, contrast in values, contrast in color. You guys have the light though? Like, can you still see if those lights go out? I'm gonna darken this even more. But that light's coming from that direction over here, so that's why I'm lighting this left side, lighting this left side, lighting this left side, a little bit of that. And let's go in and put that value in. And I'll put some of this bark, um, you know, I'll put some of these bark details in. That's twisting around like that. And I'm giving it a various pressure. I'm going, man, this needs to be more, I need to soften that edge more. What I don't have in front of me is a smudge tool. I guess I just use my pinky, but it's cool. I'm not going to get up and get that. Some texture there. A little bit of texture here. A little bit of value there. Let's make that a little bit darker. And then make that sky hole a little bit darker. But basically, like each little cluster on that tree, it's an ovoid form, like so. So that's one approach on, you know, drawing a tree. And let me give some light on this ground plane here. Let me close out of that. And I want to go his ground. I'm going to put in these some light shapes here. And some dark shapes. Now, if we were going to break down this picture into only dark and light, that's a study called NOTAN. You guys should look it up. So write that down, NOTAN. NOTAN's pretty important because it's a if whatever thing like that you look at, you know, let's say a potted plant or a landscape or a cityscape or the human figure, or whatever it is that you're looking at from observation, or even if you're doing things from imagination and you want to work from that, you have this extreme opposite between white and black, right? And NOTAN. Let me actually look up if we type that in. Let's go NOTAN. NOTAN. Let's see what pops up here. Okay. Oh, it says not an. Hold on. And then we want NOTAN. NOTAN art there. Okay, this is perfect right here. So so this is pretty cool. NOTAN. You're simplifying what it is you're looking at into these graphic shapes of only black and white and no middle value. It's like a great experiment to figure out composition and dark and light in a still life or in a landscape painting you're working on or any type of art. So, but I believe, like the way that I like to approach things, especially in my watercolors, I like to put in, here's some NOTAN studies right here. So here's some NOTAN studies. I like to, if my watercolors, I like to put in the dark values almost first. Like that's one of the first things that I like to do. So see here, if we break down this picture into black and white only, boom, black and white. And that's how I would suggest you try to like see things, and that's what squinting the eyes can help you do. Okay, now let's go to clouds. And then the next question is like, well, what kind of cloud do we want to draw, you know? There's so many different types. And then clouds are pretty cool because let me zoom out here. They're these rounded shapes. You know, you could copy another artist's work, or you could. That doesn't look like. Yeah, that's a painting. Let's look at a real thing or a photograph. Oh, this is great. See, this is killer. Um, what I was going to explain right now is this. So this right here, so clouds, right? They're just a cluster of a bunch of different spheres put together. Spheres are ovoid forms, and they're all bundled together. And um, so let's try this. I think that would be fun. Like, um, let's look at this and go. Let's do this. Here we go. Let's draw a bunch of different circles. We'll call this drawing clouds out of your imagination. I've never done this before, so, but this is kind of how I see it and how I look at it, how this person illustrated it. But let's just lightly sketch in these circles here, and see if we can get a cloud formation. Okay, because typically, like when you're a kid, you go like this with a cloud, right? You're like this. Well, it's kind of true, you know. It's kind of true. Um, you know, they're just lacking the shading of it. So let's go like that. Let's go. Okay, hey, we're a kid. We're drawing a cloud here. It's a cluster of ovoids or circles, right? So that's kind of what's going on. Um, when I've observed clouds and I've sat outside and I've drawn them, they're these puffy, round, circular things, but also they can get pretty sharp and wispy and sharp, if you look at them and really stare at them and study at them. But and the rad thing about them is, clouds are made out of water, so they do have this an effect of shadow, right? Like um, of shadows, right? But also light can go through them. They're kind of translucent. They can refract and reflect light inside of them. So the normal rules of light don't apply to a cloud. They do, but they don't. But let's just say light's coming from above like this, okay, on this cloud. So we can go, okay, so this right here, because if we have a sphere, right, or if we have like an oval, and this is what I taught you guys before, and light's coming down, then that light is going to be wrapping around, right? So this is going to be light, and this is going to be dark. So this part is going to be dark right here. Okay, so there we go. There's our cloud. That's our one like molecule of water or whatever. So you have all these. You have one of these, and we have light and dark, right? And then let's now our example here has a background color. So let's give the background a sky, like a sky color. A sky color usually has a gradient, so we'll go a little bit darker to lighter pressure, a little bit heavier to lighter pressure, okay? A little bit darker up here, and lighter as you move down, darker up here, and lighter as you move down. Okay, so now that's starting to pop, right? Now, could we go like this and give that cloud a coarse shadow? Yeah, we could give that cloud a coarse shadow. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. We can do whatever we want. Let's kind of soften that too. Let's blend that a little bit and let's soften that, okay? So let's do that. And kind of move upward. Scrub and move up, okay? So there's our mini one-celled cloud. So now we take this idea and we apply it over here to this like this. We go, let's go like this. That lights that shadow. And I'm kind of looking over here too. Shadow and shadow. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect, and let's do a similar thing. Let's frame this, okay? So let's frame this like that, okay? And then we go, okay, let's do this to this and this and this. So we're going to go like this. Okay, so now that has some dimension to it. Now, Don't forget your sky color or value, okay? Then if you guys start painting, you want to experiment with paint or painting, you remember that every color has a value. Like yellow has a value. Okay, it's light. Red has a value. Blue has a value. Sometimes red and blue are the same value. Typically red's a little bit, blue's dark. Red is close to dark. I would say it's like a medium dark, your typical red. But there's different reds. There's tons of different reds, tons of different blues, like, you know. But anyway, let's go around like this. Let's go like, let's just say, hey, boom, like that. And let's go like this. Let's say this is going like this. See how I've just taken, see how they intersected right there? See how like that and that and that intersected, and I did this? I kind of took a chunk out of it, or I cut out of it, okay? There. Now that makes some weird, like, abstract shape, but it's like, you know, it's cloudish, and I could take this and that could go like that. But, so that's our kid cloud that we did when we were a little kid, but now we made it more sophisticated and dimensional, you know? And let's give it a value, so it's floating in there. Okay, it's floating in that. Kind of soften that a little bit to um, give it a more floating in the atmosphere type feel, hopefully. Hopefully that is. All right. Now let's now we would take, you know, we take this and we did a little study here. Now we can get a little bit more sophisticated and go like this. And then what we'll do next is we're kind of doing this out of our imagination. Let's do this. Let's cut it right here. We'll crop this. We're going to go up like this. We'll go across like that. And we'll come back down like that. Okay, so these are little studies we're doing before we like hit up our clouds, okay? Our cloud reference. And so what we did here is what they did, what the person's doing here. Now let's do, they have a little different approach in this column right here. Okay, what they're doing is they're going like this. They're going like this. They're going like, okay, so they're going like, here we go, let's go. That, 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 that. And they're going boom, boom. And they're going like boom. I'd go like that. And they're going like, well, over here they're doing this. Take that out of there. Over here I would go under, I would go under, I would go under. Here I'd go over, then I'd go under, over, That would all be in shadow. That's all back there. That's going under, that's going over, over. That cloud's going like that. So I'm going to gently outline this, meaning a soft touch. You got to give it that, because the sky's not white, it's blue, so it's going to have some value. And then we have this, you're combining a bunch of spheres and basically, in my opinion. Okay. So there's that. So here's number one. Here's number one study. Here's number two we're combining, and then here's number three. All right. So there's that. Now, let's go. Now these are pretty cool here too. Here, like, you have all these different shapes, which is helpful. But let's, what do we do when we look at an actual, cloud formation? So. Okay, here's a reference photo of some clouds. Okay, so let's go off this one. And it's like, oh my gosh, there's all this stuff going on. Okay, well, first thing I want to point out is this. Okay, the first thing I want to do is I want to, and let me do this. Let's go down here. I'm going to do this down here because I'm going to do our real study up here. So what's happening in this photo, we have our horizon line down here. Okay. Now, we have, don't forget that what's happening here, you have I talked to you guys about perspective. You have a perspective grid. Okay? And these clouds are in perspective. Okay? And this ground, here's our horizon line, and here's our ground line. That road's in perspective over here like this, and these things are following this perspective grid. Okay, it's kind of like, I don't know if I want to say it, the matrix, but you have these perspective lines in this perspective grid that you want to be aware of. And if you look at these clouds, hopefully this is cool. You can see that this cloud up here, right? This is closest to us. It's farthest up in the picture plane, so it's way up here. All right? Now, how do we look at a cloud? And then as we move down towards the horizon line, these clouds are getting smaller and smaller, and they're getting closer and closer together. And they're starting to overlap more. Like, if you look at the clouds down here towards the horizon line, look how much they're overlapping and how close they are together, okay? They're getting closer and closer together. That's typically how it works. But they're following perspective down here, this perspective grid. Hopefully that helps. Now, let's go back up here and let's let's draw this cloud right here. So this cloud right here, I want to explain that. So when you look at a cloud, I'll do a little diagram down here first. This cloud has a shape like so, something like this. Okay, so this is I'm being really and if you find a cloud shape that you like, let me know. So this cloud shape is actually, it's kind of, let me do that right there. Here's the, look at this line right here. So there's this line right here, okay? What is the, and you're like, what line is that? What are you talking about? Well, light's hitting here, and this is in shadow. This is the shadow line, shadow line. All this gray area, that's shadow. So that's underneath. So that's underneath the cloud, okay? And so when you're looking at a cloud, it has an underside. Try to see the underside. So I'm going to go like this. And I'm going to go like this with this cloud right here. Like that right there is this right here. And this right here is this right here. And that right there is that right there. Okay? Now, this from the here to here, from here to here, that's like a box. It's going from top to corner. Imagine this is a corner, like a corner of a box that I taught you guys about in perspective, okay? And from here to here. So boom, boom, that's a corner, and it's going under. Okay? Down, across. And here, down, across. So this is going down, across. These are called cross contours. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to think, oh, this is the underside. Okay, but we don't want to be so drastic. What I'm doing here is I'm oversimplifying, okay, to try to get this idea into your head, okay? Like this is the underside of the cloud. Okay? And this is the side. And then the top would be illuminated also. The top. Now, you're like, well, that's how you draw clouds? No. But we need to understand that it still has volume. It still has a structure. Do you know what I'm saying? So let's break this down. Let's see if we can find something else here. Here we go. Let's try this. Okay. So I'm gonna go with this thing right here. Just this, you know. I guess we could do something dynamic like this. That might be fun. Gosh, there's so many like rad photographs that we could go through. Let's do this. This is kind of like the tree, but let's just start with this simple one right here. So I'll do 2 little studies, okay? Yeah, I would recommend just doing study after study after study. These are basically value studies. So let's do this one here. First thing that I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna shade this. I'm gonna go, that's dark to medium value. And I'm just gonna go I'm gonna tone the background. That's how I want to approach this. I want to show you guys a different approach other than using line. Okay. My go-to is line. Okay. Well, let's try. Let me show you guys the. I'm adding right now, so I'll show you. This is additive approach, and then I'll show you guys subtractive approach. So now I'm just going to take an eraser out, okay, and I'm just going to replicate as best I can this shape right here, and I already see this flow happening right here. I already see this happening right here. I see this happening right here. I see all these beautiful things, and then but I also see this. I want to look for the simplification of this. So I'm gonna let's start erasing out. Or carving out this shape. Now, so this is a base to start from. Now this background is really dark, so what I'm gonna do, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in here and I'm not gonna zoom in on this. I'm just gonna leave it. There's already a ton of detail. I could sit here for hours and or like last time with that dog fur, and I could just sit here and I could zoom in right here and just go, let's match this texture, and you know. Um, so I just want to stay zoomed out, and then and be here for a little bit, and talk about. I'm gonna put these darker values in, and I'm gonna work back. I'm gonna work back and forth between erasing or subtracting and adding values. And then what I'm going to do, and then what's going to happen is I'm going to start to think about flow. I'm thinking about flow. So already I'm thinking about rhythm and flow and the movement and gesture and wrapping and curving of this this thing. You know, that's what it is. It's this thing. Kind of blending that. Um, I would say the answer to how do you draw a cloud would be, or how do you paint a cloud would be, just like anything else is match. I'm doing these little strokes, like these. I'm using these strokes like so. repetitive curvilinear arcs. And right now what I'm doing is I'm focusing on the background values, and I'm trying to um, I'm gonna carve in here. I'm gonna cut in here. So I'm going in and out, and back and forth. Now I'm that, that got a little dark right there. I mean, like the values were too dark in the cloud, and I should be darkening the background values instead. And I'm thinking of these tiny these little volumes. Like like these things are volumes, and they're constantly moving, but like this is a volume wrapping around. Like, you know, how do you show a volume? You show a volume by wrapping around. Let's make that smaller again. Okay, so this is coming this way. Let me zoom in so you can see that better. Like kind of what I'm doing. I'm just gonna zoom into the way that my hands moving, so you guys can. I'm gonna go away from the reference right now so you can see. Um, I want you to look at the direction the sweeping movement or motion that that I'm making with my hand. Now what I'm doing here is watch. I'll go like this with the background. I'm going like this. I'm blending up, and then I turn that a little bit. The pencil. Now watch. This is just what I do. I'm just explaining what I do, and the reason I turned the pencil, and I learned this years and years ago, I forgot who. Maybe it was my high school art teacher. Maybe it was from my brother. My brother and I used to sit and we used to draw for hours. We used to just sit there and just. We mostly would draw from imagination, but no, we would I remember copying book covers from sci-fi fantasy like book covers. but you turn your pencil a little bit and that helps to sharpen it and you get a different edge on your pencil. But I'm trying to blend, I'm blending that up and I'm making this edge as each little tiny thing a little bit different than the other. And I'm looking at my reference because that's going to help me. And over here, I'm like, oh, shoot. Let's kind of scrub that out a little bit. Like that's a little puff. Just that little dash. I'm slowly, repeatedly going and subtracting that out. Now right here, it's pretty dark, but and I'm going to think of that as a form. I already started here, but that's wrapping around, wrapping around, wrapping around. Now that's my mentality. Now, when I'm telling you this, I'm thinking to myself, see this right here? This right here is this right here. And this part right here that I'm doing is this part right here. You see this flow right here? That's this coming up like this. So that's coming up like this, and this is coming around like that. So that's coming around like this. And that's going around like this, outward like that. So I'm going to go outward like this. But as you look at whatever it is you're looking at and you're studying meaning you're drawing it, you're putting these marks down, you know, you'll be interpreting what's wrapping, what's moving forward, what's moving backward. If you want something to move backwards, usually it's like make it darker. If you want something to, I kind of want to get some white out. I saw I was on watching YouTube. I ran across this really cool video of these old school inkers, because I think inking is the coolest thing. I forgot how much I love it, and I re-explored it this year with my students, and it was just, it's amazing. And I'm talking about the old school. I don't know where I put that there. I'm talking about the old school dip pens, you know. But they were using whiteout, and I could see myself at the very end of this using like a white gel pen or whiteout, and really like hitting some white areas. What do I really want to pop? So I'm going to darken this background over here too. Now, if you look in this formation thing here, you can see the push and pull. You know, you can see that, like, this is my interpretation. This is how I'm like kind of stylizing it, and I'm like, it's not what I'm seeing is it's not looking exactly like this cloud, but it's definitely a study of form and volume and texture. If I was going to paint this, I'd probably approach this a little bit differently. But I'm dealing with color. Okay, so this thing right here, so I'm looking at this right here. Oh, you guys can't see what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm looking at this right here. And so I'm going to put that in right there. And then I'm going to, I see this right here. And I'm going to put that in right above it. So these are areas that are darker. Kind of working my way around this shape, and I'm looking at this other cloud over here, and I'm going. I'm spending a lot of time on this, which I'm enjoying, um, and I want to spend minimal time on this other study. I want to do this other study next to it and kind of show you, I guess, if I wanted to do it in 10 minutes, what would I do? How would I do this? So let's just transition, even though I'm not finished with that. Let me quickly go through here. And kind of quote finish this up. Okay, and I want to go. I want to go to this other one here. Let's go like this. I want to go to this one right here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's hold this up right here, and then we'll do this one right here. So this one's pretty interesting because it's got this cool form. And then we'll go to like a cumulonimbus, one of those types of clouds. So I'm creating the edge of that cloud right there, okay? So I'm creating the edge. Now I'm gonna go underneath here. I'm gonna do this one a little bit different. So I didn't tone it this time. and I'm being more direct and not, um, I'm applying more of that foundational approach to like, oh, it's spherical, you know? These rounded forms. You know, and I could go, there's our horizon line. There's some mountains in the background. You know, so there's that cloud. Pretty much, you know. Now, I want to look at both of them and I want to go, you know, let's zoom out here for a second. Let's go. All right, well, which one do I like better? I don't know. I mean, this one I explored a little bit more, but I like this one more because when I toned it, and this is what I'm talking about, when I toned it, I can't erase out. It's really hard to get that white back. But here, I left it alone, and that really popped. Okay, I want to do, let's do, let's do, here we go. So we got let's do let's do this storm cloud here, okay? So let's do this right here. All right, I'm gonna do this storm cloud. Here we go. Hopefully I can take this off here. There we go. So I'm gonna do this nice and big. Sharpen my pencil. All right. All right, here we go. So it's going darker to lighter down here. Lot more contrast, less contrast down here. There's so much detail in his. I mean, I could sit here for hours, but because we don't have a lot of time, I'm just gonna be very decisive about things, about what I'm going to. I'm thinking of overlapping. I'm overlapping forms and shapes, and I'm being pretty light on my line work, except up here I am going to be, um, have a darker line because it's a darker value up here. I'm looking for shapes of value, just like I was looking for shapes of value with the tree. And I'm looking for dark shapes. And this is a study. If I get close, and that's good enough. And what I'm doing is I'm interpreting the color that I'm seeing into values. I'm think the light's coming from the left. Just working my way down. Okay, let's make this pop a little bit. Being really careful here along this edge. See, in order to have a quote cloud, it's the background. You got to give it some value. Now down here we're gonna start blending in. There's very low contrast down here. So I'm gonna do a lot lighter, softer line. Like that's going in front, that's going in front. I'm just making decisions. That's going in front. And this is coming around and around. And this is flat down here. And there's this tree right, so that's coming down here, and this tree's like right here. So like, you know, you're also getting how do you draw a tree, right? Trunk's coming down, branches moving up. There's these like shapes and things like that. Here's some grass. How do you draw grass? Well, here you go. scribbles or lines of value. Yeah, and then we have a line here, a line of texture. You know, this is all value too, and I'll go vertical here. That grass, that's vertical. This is really light. This is darker here. This is all pretty light. Let's blend that upward. I'm gonna blend that upward. And then there's this darker area and kind of darker, broader strokes here for the grass. You know, you're not when you're drawing grass, you're not trying to draw every single blade of grass. You're just trying to get that movement. You put some of it in there, and you'll get the person to say, "Oh, that's grass." You know, I could go do 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 do. And soften some of it. Okay, let's go back up to the cloud since that's what this is about. Just gotta kind of figure out where I'm at. And what I was doing was I was figuring out my dark values. You know, I'm making these curvilinear. I don't know. I would call them cauliflower movements. So I'm thinking cauliflower this whole time, like cauliflower, cauliflower. Soften some of that. Soften that. Go back in here and put some of these darker values in down here. A harder edge. Hard edge, hard edge, firm edge, soft edge, lost edge. Remember your edges. Putting in my dark values still. Fine tuning. You know, giving some areas more detail. Like this is pretty generalized down here. You know, this is pretty generalized here, generalized down here. Here I'm putting in a lot. I'm gonna start putting in some details. So I'm gonna start putting in a focal point. Figuring out where I want to put it. Softening edges. So I don't have just line work. So I'm putting in these little tiny soft lines, but you know, having that line work. That's working out pretty good, you know. I mean, if you look at that, and then you look at this, and then you look at this, and then you look at that, you know. Look at these. I mean, it's all an exploration. It's you know, you're playing around, you're figuring it out, and you know, started with the tree. The tree was okay, but like even in my own work, like and look at your own work, you can go, um, you know, this is what I started with. I'm kind of getting in that mode of thinking and getting more into that mode of thinking. Okay, now I'm starting to explore here. And then, like, for me, sometimes when I work quicker and more decisively, like, that to me looks better, more like a cloud than this, you know? But also, I made a different decision here. Like, I'm lacking contrast, light values. If I had some white um, paint or something to put on here, and that could. Let me try some charcoal. Hold on. Put the. This is new pastel. It's just like a hard. It's a hard charcoal basically. Let me put pastel, but see if it's gonna make a difference. I think it's just done on a bigger scale. I would have gotten more out of it for myself anyway. I'm stoked on this. Just the boom simplicity. And let's try this here. There, more cloudish maybe. I like that one a lot personally, and I like this one. I like this. I like doing this approach. This you know, this hard, this outlining approach, leaving the white of the paper. That was really fun. That was enjoyable. But what I've done here, let me zoom in, is saying welcome to chat. Hello chat. What I've done here is I'm thinking there's like each of these little tiny um, curvatures to me is a volume. You know, it's a teeny tiny, like right here. It's a teeny tiny volume. You know, teeny tiny volume wrapping around. And I'm not looking at the reference right now, but let me just zoom out a little bit and just kind of like explore this area, this region, like, you know, teeny tiny volumes. Like when I go like that, when I go like this, you know, those are teeny um, ovoids, you know. And I'm pretty much in this drawing reacting to the reference. I'm reacting it being very um, decisive, guttural, um, and not overthinking it in a way. Okay, so there's that little storm cloud study. Let's see. Is this a photo? Yeah, that looks like a photo. Okay. It says cloud canvas wall art, large cloudy sky painting, rain cloud painting, blue sky painting, large cloud canvas. Is that even a painting? Doesn't look like a painting. It might be though. Like AI is crazy now because it's like you don't know. Okay, that's pretty rad. Okay, there's a cool photo right here. Okay, let's do one more. Let's do this one. So let's go. We got some time. We got 15 minutes. So let's go. Okay. This is awesome because it looks like someone just, you know, look at these clouds. Okay. Went outside, boom. That's behind, that volume's behind, in front of this volume. That's in front of this volume. That's in front of this volume. So now watch. Here we go. Let's put these. Let's figure out. Let's make some decisions here. Let's make some decisions about these dark values. Okay, making some decisions about these dark values. Now watch. Here we go. Almost there. It's almost going to happen. So this whole area right here, start here. That is all dark. Okay? So then we go, okay, let's fill that in now. Let's fill that in now. Okay? So you got your basic cloud shape. But now look at the background. Look how much darker. That's darker than this. That's darker than this. Why? Because light's hitting it. It's illuminating it. Okay? So now let's go here. Go around this now. Okay, now we got this little wispy here. I like this pencil. We can go in here. We can. Soften that now, you know? Let's go like that. Erase that out. Carve that out. Okay, so. Okay. Look at that. Now let's go back. Let's go back in. Now I go. Here's a light area. This light area like this coming around. kind of exploring this, figuring out think about that. These volumes. This is coming down like this. That's coming down like that. You know, this is coming down. This comes out. Okay, this comes under. Back out. And that's a little shadow under there. And I could give this some core shadow. I could be thinking, okay, core shadow. And give this some variety. You know, give this some variety now in these areas. And let's go in a circular fashion here. A little bit more detail, smaller detail. Like, what is detail? Detail is, it's smaller shapes. That's all detail is. People say, oh, I like the detail. Well, detail, what that is a smaller shape. Or it's just something that catches your eye. It might mean contrast. Detail in a piece of artwork could be implied, like implied meaning it's just a value that catches your eye, or a color that catches your eye. I put in the live stream, I put how to draw trees, and like here we are drawing clouds. How to draw one tree and a lot of clouds. So these are cool. I love it. I'm really enjoying this. Now I want to make like a piece of artwork definitely involving like, you know, different types of clouds. And when you do it, and I haven't done this in a long time. When you do something like this and you study something like this, you know, you're building confidence. You're getting like, you know, you can get something out of it, you know, that you haven't before. And then here we got some shrubs, so we can like throw in these trees down here to give it some scale. Little telephone lines. Walmart. Yeah, a tree's just a shape of value, basically. Yeah, by doing this, by throwing in some other things, you know, we give it that scale. Throwing a building back here, and a tree here, and a telephone pole here, and, So right here, we're over here. That's right there. I love going to that place where you're drawing, and I mean when you're teaching it, it's like you probably shouldn't be quiet, but get in that meditative place. Shapes of value, shapes of value, shapes of value. Okay, now here, there's that wisp. Should be a little bit darker. I'm going to put in some detail right here. Some smaller shapes and break up. See, that's behind, that's in front. Oh, that's right there. Okay. Lost track for a second where I was. Okay. Thank you guys. Thanks for coming. That was awesome. Stoked, man. Appreciate you guys.